It is Super Bowl Sunday down here in the Villages, Florida, and today we're going to talk about my fat face, a little bit about real estate, and a mixed bag of some questions. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson, and we're down here in the Villages, Florida, and like normal, this is usually about the Villages, retirement, hell, anything to do with being this at this age. And okay, all right, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and I still have my Eagles hat on, and you can see the Eagles stuff in the background. I refuse to believe that the Eagles, after being like, what were they, 10-1 or something like that, ended up in whatever the season was, they lost like next 5 games. I think they were at 6 or something like that. They had lost. Pretty much of a bummer. So as far as an Eagles fan goes, we get used to saying, well, it's all about next year. So that's what I'm saying. It's all about next year. So this is the beginning of next year already. That's why I have that on. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where I'm at right now as far as these videos go. My fat face, a little bit about real estate, and we'll cherry pick a few questions to answer. And then I'm going to start getting ready for the Super Bowl to go watch that and have a good time watching that. Hopefully it's a good game because I really don't care about either team. Let me know down in the comments about what you're thinking as far as these football teams go that are in there this time. Anywho, let's kind of get back to my fat face right now. And take a look at this image. This is a picture of me. This would be on the left, would be just about a month before Thanksgiving. And that's just about the time I decided that I was going to start on this diet. And this picture, the picture to the right is me probably 3 weeks ago, something like that, maybe 4 weeks ago, I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of, I honestly hadn't really looked at these pictures until today. And I went, holy smokes. This is why people keep asking me questions. And the questions are when you stop me. Wow, have you lost a lot of weight? And I say, yeah, I'm down about somewhere between 30 and 40 pounds, something like that. And well, are you okay? And the answer is yes. As far as I know, I'm okay. We can't find anything wrong with me right now. But I want to assure people I appreciate you asking, but I'm fine. And, you know, this journey, this weight loss journey, it's been kind of fascinating to me because people ask me, well, how did you do it? What are you doing? And that first month, I ate nothing but meat. And when I say meat, I mean literally beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. That was it. All animal products. I had a little bit of fish once in a while. And then when I went into Thanksgiving, I kind of experimented with some stuff and kind of experimented some more. The biggest thing I have to say is the whole time I was under doctor's care. In fact, multiple doctor's care. Cardiologist, my primary care physician, in fact, actually 2 of them, and Dr. Sivas, which I actually just taped an interview with him as far as the carnivore thing goes and working with him. And during this time, I've also had a lot of people say, for the new year, I'm going to try this and stuff like this. I beg you, you may find a doctor that doesn't agree with this, but obviously things are working for me. You've got to do your own research and stuff like that. But you need to do the blood tests. And I almost think at this age, now I'm not a doctor, I'm not telling you what to do, but every morning, in fact, I didn't plan on doing this, but I'll show you a shot right here of my blood pressure and my O2 levels. And that's this morning. I think it has the date on there maybe. And that's February 11th. And when I started doing this, my blood pressure medicine, I had just, when you saw that fat face, the cardiologist had just said to me, maybe we ought to just give you a little more medicine, right? And to lower your blood pressure because it was kind of creeping up there. And I went, okay, it's time to do something about this, right? And I did. And the next time I saw him, he said, you know what, maybe we'll go back to the old ways. And the last time I went to see him, he says, we'll cut this in half now. So the next step is to get me off the blood pressure medicine completely. And I think that from what I found out, Dr. Sivas told me, he goes, I get up every morning, I take my blood pressure and take my O2. And, and so do I. And I've noticed that if my blood pressure is high when I get up in the morning, as long as some late nights or some reason for it not to be up, but that I've been behaving, let's put it that way. If it's up or my oxygen levels seem to be a little low, they usually run around 97. There's something that's going to happen. And not many times because I don't get sick that often, but a few times that I saw it up, the next day I felt kind of queasy and not real good and stuff like that. And when I say high, I don't mean like 200 or something like that back when I had pneumonia and they darn near killed me at the emergency room. But it's kind of given me a place to go and kind of monitor myself. Now, I'll put the links down below for the 2 units that I use. Actually, 3 units. I have 2 blood pressure units I use. And I think, if anything you wanted to do for your health is go get a blood pressure monitor and go get an O2 and check those levels. Because if there's something wrong, it could easily start showing up there before you even know it. So to kind of round that up, I am doing well, and I appreciate the concern, and hopefully I don't look too sickly. I don't have the little baby pudgy face anymore that I know of. I get a lot of beeping going on here. But people ask me what to eat. Now, I'll show you what I had here last night for dinner. This is it. I had some Chilean sea bass, wild-caught Chilean sea bass, and crab legs. And, of course, I had butter with that, too. But I also have, here's another meal I had. Here's steak and mushrooms with a little bit of vegetables. Now, people that know me would go, wow, my eyes were bigger than my vegetable brain was. I eat the steak first, and then I follow that with the vegetables because that helps to keep the A1C down and my glucose levels. When I started this diet, I was about 6.2. My doctor was saying, oh, that's okay. You just need to eat a little less sugar, a little less carbs, that type of thing. Now, let's see, right there, I'm at 5.3. And my glucose right now is reading about 88. And that's about average during the day. When I go play pickleball, it'll jump up over 100 because the cortisol kicks in, raises it up. But continuous glucose monitor, if your doctor says they won't order one for you, there's something fishy going on there, I think personally. But that's helped me monitor stuff. And you definitely learn what spikes it and what doesn't. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing is inflammation. And then I'm going to kind of depart on this. But the creakiness in my hands, my back aches, my knees, foot, all kinds of stuff. Diverticulosis. I had an acute diverticulitis. I just had an x-ray the other day. Doc says no sign of it. And that's it. So anyway, that's kind of an update. I promise you, I'm really hustling with what I want to divulge as far as the carnivore diet goes and stuff like that. But everything's good. Thank you for your concern. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the real estate because something caught my attention this morning. Here we go. Now, just so you know, I try to keep track of the real estate market, and I'll tell you my philosophy a little bit about buying property in the villages. When you purchase property, well, for me, when you purchase property in the villages, when I looked at it, I went, I need to buy something that I'm going to be happy with that I can afford. And what I mean by that is when we started buying real estate, maybe like in our 20s or 30s or 40s or even 50s, you kind of worried about appreciation, depreciation of it. Is it going to go down? Am I going to lose money? You worried over those things. In my mind, when you're purchasing something for retirement and you're going to sit on this, I really didn't worry about it as an investment. I was more concerned about, is everything here that I'm going to like in place? Because I'll probably end up dying here. So I really did not care what the value of the property was in 2, 3, 4 years. Well, with that said, I used to have my real estate license when I was in California. And with that said, please don't listen to anything I say because I'm just a knucklehead on YouTube. Do your own research. But every once in a while, something catches my attention. And I do follow the 10-year and everything else in the mortgage rates. Why? I guess it's just out of habit. But I listen to a lot of people that have YouTube channels about real estate. And here's one of the sites that I look at, and it's the Villages Real Estate Market. You can see this February 5th, so it's like 5 days ago. And it's Dave is in Florida, and that's the name of the website. So here's a look at it. And as he went through some stuff, he regurgitates basically information. I mean, you can scrub through it. And as you can see, it's just all information about things going on in the villages. But here are 2 slides, as he calls them. I will put a link down to him in YouTube here so you can check it out if you want. But here are 2 slides that kind of caught my attention. The first one is sold for square foot. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you take and I will show you right here. If you take, this is the amount that I paid for my house, $478,000, and you have 1,826 feet. And when you divide that, you get $261 a foot. Now, you have to take into consideration that what he has here is an average, and each house is different. So in other words, I paid for this view right here. I clicked this off this morning. This is the view that I have. Now, my bump in my lot value was $70,000. So automatically, I'm probably $60,000 above what that was. When you built a house on the water at that point in time, they upgraded a lot of things like the flooring, the countertops, some of the cabinet stuff a little bit, not much, but a couple other things. But those were some of the major upgrades you had, so that raised the price of the footage. Now, if I was worried about, we'll go back to this slide right here right now. He's saying about the average is $245. Well, that means that the average price was, decreased. What is that? 20 some thousand or something like that, $18 a square foot. And I should be worried, but I'm really not, because I don't plan on selling this. It wasn't an investment, and so on and so on. But here's the next slide that he had up that kind of caught my attention a little bit. And the biggest thing is the trend. And this is median time on market for sold. So these are sold homes and the amount of time that they're sitting on the market. Now, you go back a couple years and you look at these homes, it was darn near back that May 4th. It was probably 5 days, 3 days, 2 days was the average that it would sit on the market. And now look at the trend all the way on the right. You're talking about a skyrocketing shot right towards 70. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be that tomorrow, but 70 days on the market, 60, 70 days on the market is a big trend change. And you may ask yourself, why, right? And these are just some things to consider. Remember, I'm not a real estate agent, but I thought this was really interesting because when you get your real estate license, one of the things they teach you is the simple fact is that every home that's out there will sell at a certain price. I mean, it could be a lot with a matchbook on it. It's going to sell at a certain price. Generally, there's 2 things at play here. One, the seller's asking too much, right? Listen to that. Really, I know a lot of you are sitting there going, I want to sell your house. You're thinking about selling your house and you're going, well, I'm not asking too much. I put a lot of work into this and stuff. People just don't care. That market will bear the price that the house can support for a sale. It's just as simple as that. Also, if the time of season, right? So we're going to start entering into the sales season now as we get closer towards summer. You're going to start seeing some factors kick in. It may come down a little bit. And obviously, interest rates affect the price of the house. Now, weirdly enough, in the villages, a lot of homes are bought for cash. So that does not quite affect the properties that are for sale in the villages as much as they do properties outside the villages, because a lot of people are using mortgages. More people are using mortgages than in the villages. So that's a big thing. But I just thought it was really interesting to check out the time that the houses are on sale here on the market. But take a look at the trend. I mean, that trend is moving up and up and up. So just something to think about. Don't go into a panic. Like I said, if you own your home and this is where you're retiring, really, what do you care how long it's on the market? What do you care about what square footage it is? At least that's the way I look at it. Anyway, just something to note that I kind of thought was interesting right now. A lot of the other stuff fluctuates. But one other thing to consider also, for the villages, as far as the developer goes, those houses that sit on the market, the ones that don't sell, they're going to discount. And I think the discount rates are going up. And also, when those sales don't happen as much, they've got to figure out a way to reduce their costs, right? And that means stuff that's on the inside of the house. You're not going to see as much on the inside of the house. They're going to find more efficient ways to build them. They're going to limit what you can and can't do to a home, because the less you can do to a home, the more they're going to make. So the less customized, the more they're going to make, the less hassle they have. All these things take into account. So let me know what you found in the comments, because there's a lot of people that are going to listen to this and go, yeah, I don't get it. How come I can't expand my house anymore? Well, one of it has to do with the way they're building, and two has to do with what they need to sell the houses, because them sitting on homes means less money. It costs them a lot of money to have those homes sitting there. Anyway, that's it. Let's jump on to a few questions and have some fun with these. And then I'm going to go watch the Super Bowl with you guys. And let me know who you're rooting for, because I just can't figure it out for myself. But I'm going to go with a bunch of good people and watch the game. Let's do a couple of quick questions, and then I think we're going to call it quits early today. But Laura writes, and I totally understand this, Laura. Thanks a lot for writing in. I really appreciate it. In fact, I appreciate all the comments. I love reading them. I read every one. I know you guys have heard that, but I check everyone out. It says, hi, Rusty. I've done 7-day rentals, 10-day rentals, and 14-day rentals in the villages myself. No parties, no commotion, no crime involved. My most recent rental was past. I am 63 and 15 months away from retirement. Many people being ages 55 and 64 are still working full time and do not get enough paid time off to come down there for a month. I totally get that. Just saying, not all people who rent are less than 30 days are a cause of a problem in the villages. Maybe I will be your neighbor as of June or July. Sure, move on in. That's great. Now, what I will say, and a lot of people complain about the Airbnb. Unfortunately, the landlords tend to make a decent amount of money off of these Airbnbs, because Airbnb charges a lot of money every time they rent versus longer term rentals. So it kind of works out pretty good for people. A little extra cash. The problem is the people that are renting aren't always vetted that well. So the people in a neighborhood. You come into a neighborhood, you buy a home, and then you want a neighborhood. It's called a neighborhood. And that's why a lot of people move here to the villages, because a lot of people know their neighbors. They're friendly with everybody. they go out in the morning. But if you live next door to a place and every single weekend, or especially during the high season, people are moving in, they're moving out for the weekend, they're moving in, they're moving out. They're there for a week. And I'm not saying you, Laura, I'm not, not everybody, but I know there's even people around here that we look just across the pond and stuff like that. And you can almost tell there's a couple of homes that are probably short-term rentals. There's people moving in and out. Now, they're not always bad, but there are actually people that rent here in the Villages to go down to Disney. And, they're moving in with kids. So if you're sitting in a house and, the smaller homes, less expensive homes tend to be the rental ones. It's just the way it is. The big homes don't rent quite as much short term. And so it's kind of like a neighborhood thing. Even if you're nice and everything else and you're doing everything, I moved here for a neighborhood. Luckily I got pretty good neighbors, but I got a neighbor to the left of me that's a rental. I got a neighbor to the right of me that's a rental. I got people across the street that are a rental, and they're long-term rentals. So I'm kind of lucky, right? But a lot of people don't have that. They got people shuffling in and out all the time, and they lose their sense of neighborhood. Now I've read stories about people that have They move into a neighborhood, they're all happy, and every single person on their house, on their block, is in and out all the time renting. And, they say during the summer, they go, God, my neighborhood turns into a ghost town. I get it. You moved there, you did your own research and stuff like that. I'm just saying that's the other side of the story. It doesn't always have to do with just noise and complaints and that type of thing. And, if you folks have experiences with, short-term rentals and that kind of stuff, put them down in the comments, because it's kind of nice to hear these stories sometimes. You may help some other people out in buying a house. Let's look at a couple more questions or comments that I got. Moving on. I guess sticking kind of with that purchasing real estate theme here right now. Hi, Rusty. Quick question. Is there a bug problem living that close to the lake? Thank you. Yep. You know what? Not really. I did notice when I first came here and I was looking at homes. Now, this is when everything was still getting stirred up. I went over and looked at homes that were along the tree line, where you kind of get into the swamp and the open areas. And I did think that there was a lot more mosquitoes back there. For those of you wondering about Florida, this is the way my bug experience went. When I first moved here, they had kicked up a lot of things going on. So this was, everything was laid down here. The first year I was here, the spiders were crazy. I mean, not inside the house, but outside the house, there were spiders everywhere. And I constantly had to keep after them and knocking them down. Somebody told me that don't worry about it, because after the first couple of years or whatever, they kind of dissipate, because if you keep knocking down the webs and that type of thing, they no longer have anywhere to feed. So that went away. I really don't even worry a whole lot about the spiders right now. As far as seeing giant bugs around here, I really don't seem to have a problem with it. Living by the water, I did notice one time our aerator went out. So they have aerators out in the middle of the ponds, and they blow bubbles. And from what I understand, that helps to keep the surface of the water moving, which prevents a lot of the mosquitoes from laying eggs. With that said, when it went out, it seemed like it was a little bit higher kind of mosquito rate getting bitten, but it wasn't too bad. During the height of, I'll call it bug season, when you're in the back, you get bitten pretty good. And you understand why people have these bird cages around, because you'd never survive out there. But during the winter, when I'm out there during the winter, it's kind of still nice out at night. I really don't get that much of a problem with mosquitoes. So it'd be really interesting to hear what people have to say about the bug thing and their experience where they live. I do know that I used to hear the mosquito trucks going around and spraying for mosquitoes. Haven't heard those of late. Anyway, that's pretty much what I know, but not being a Floridian to begin with, when I came down here, I expected to see giant water bugs and stuff like that running around my house, and it really hasn't been a problem. So anyway, that's it for the bugs. Let's try one more here really quick, and then it is Super Bowl time. Here we go. This one is, and then afterwards, I'm going to show you kind of I'll call them stupid comments I get. You'll see one here, and I just erase them, but this one I'm just showing you. Anyway, from Larry, and Larry actually wrote two, and he writes for Andy. He writes for Andy. It's rusty, but that's okay, Larry. Don't worry about it, because I know in your other comment question you left that you had subscribed, and I really appreciate that because it really helps out the channel. Thank you so much for just taking a second to push the subscribe button and ring the top bell up there when it hits all. Click on that. Make sure you do that. It says, Randy, Rusty, like the villages, but need a fenced backyard. Do you have any homes with fenced backyards there? Thanks from Oregon, Larry. Well, here's a picture of my backyard. As you can see, there's a fence on either side, and then there's a small fence in the back. You just can't willy-nilly start throwing fences around your yard. The strangest thing is when I've been out on my walks, I've seen some homes with fences in the backyard. I don't know how they got okayed by ARC, the Architectural Review Committee. I don't know. I'd be really curious. But here's a couple of things to note. First of all, we have districts here. I think there's 17, probably 18 of them, whatever there is now. Different districts have different rules. You go all the way up north. Your district may, in 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, may have different rules than down here. Some of them have actually erased the amount of dog animals that you're allowed to have. With that said, here's the problem. You move into a neighborhood, and we are very close to our neighbors. Very close. And that doesn't bother me too much at all. It doesn't bother me to have dogs. In fact, before I get all my dog hate mail, I probably given more than 99.9% of you to the SPCA. I used to go walk dogs on some of their last walks before they got euthanized. And I'd shovel their poop. I sponsored concerts. So I am an animal lover. Let's not go down that route. But the biggest thing is if you're going to have 4 dogs, let's say you can find one of the districts that allows it. You got neighbors that live right next to you. One, you got to keep after that poop, because trust me, when it starts baking in the sun and the moisture and the humidity, you can start to smell that stuff. I've walked into by people's yards and I've smelt it. 2, when I remember when I first moved in here, I got up in the morning and, you remember my backyard, the view that I had. My biggest thing is the reason I paid the extra money for it was I wanted to get up in the morning, watch the sunrise, have my newspaper, have my coffee. And for a while in the beginning, when I'd open up my newspaper, my neighbor's dogs would start barking. Now, I'm not doing anything wrong by reading my newspaper, but the dog barking is not right. That becomes a nuisance dog. Now, to you may not hear the dog. I had people in my neighborhood that I could hear their dog whine and cry all day long. They would leave their dog in their house. They had a doggy door in the back. There was a fence around the yard. They would leave the doggy door open. The dog would go out into the yard and whine consistently for hours with its head poked under the fence, whining and crying. And when I confronted the person, their answer was, well, I'll leave my door open. You can go leave the dog in. Well, one, your dog has a doggy door. It can go in by itself. Me letting your dog in is not going to do any good. And no, I am not going to come into your house and take care of your animal. So if you want to have 4 animals, make sure that you're willing to control them so that your neighbors that are literally sometimes 10, 15 feet away from you with their nice afternoon fall breeze windows open don't have to listen to the dogs. Like I said, please don't send me doggy hate mail, because if you look, I've got videos on here on how to take care of your animals better in the heat. So that's it, Randy. Love to have you. Love petting the dogs. Even go to the store and buy doggy treats for them. And yeah, that's the thing you have to consider. We're not in North Dakota or Alaska or someplace else where you have plenty of room for them to run around. You need to go out and walk them. And some people, rightfully so, do a lot of work on their lawns, and you walk up and down and have your dog urinate and poop on their lawn, it makes spots after they've spent hours each week trying to keep their lawn up. Anyway, that's about it, Larry. Now, I'm going to show you, here's one, I think Jerry and Lyndon call them salt and sugar or something like that. You know, thank God I don't get too many of these cranky emails and stuff, but here's one. Let's check it out. It kind of cracks me up when I get these, because a lot of times they're from people that would probably tell you if you met them face to face that sure, they're accepting, you know, they're understanding of other people and stuff like that. When they're just so out to lunch, here's one right now. Volker Hags, whatever it is. You was already to your first MAGA gathering question. Thumbs down 3 times. What in the world does that? First of all, my English teacher's rolling over in her grave. Not that I'm the best at English, but that's pretty bad. But second of all, what does this mean? You were at your first MAGA gathering. You know, I know they have clubs for the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and probably Independent and some other ones here. I don't get it. What else can I say? But I get stuff, you know, really closed-minded things like that, and you can always tell they're people that don't live here. And that's about it for this week. It is time to go check out the Super Bowl, and hopefully it's a good game, because, boy, I'll tell you what, if it's really lopsided, it's going to be torture watching that without these guys in it. And I really appreciate you guys jumping in here, and thank you so much for subscribing and ringing that bell up top. That really helps out a lot, and liking big time. And like I said, a bunch of these, I'd love to hear the comments on, that's for sure. And as I always say, I hope to see you down here in the villages. If not, I'll see you back here on YouTube. You have a wonderful day and enjoy watching the Super Bowl.